Deva. Can I start, Mataji? I'll start, Mataji.
Yes, please. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah. Text number 19. Asruyanta shisha satyas tatra tatra dvijairita nanurupascha nirgunasya gunatmana.
It was being heard here and there that the benedictions being paid to Krishna were neither befitting nor unbefitting, because they were all for the Absolute, who was now playing the part of a human being.
Text number 20. Anyonyam ashit sanjalpa uttama sloka chetasam Kauravendra pura strinam sarvasruti manohara.
Absorbed in the thought of the transcendental qualities of the Lord, who is sung in select poetry, the ladies on the roofs of all the houses of Hastinapur began to talk of him. This talk was more attractive than the hymns of the Vedas.
Savaikilayam purisha puratano ya eka ashid avishesha atmani agre gunebhyo jagad atmanishware nimilitatmam nishi supta saktishu.
They said, "Here he is, the original personality of Godhead, as we definitely remember him. He alone existed before the manifested creation of the modes of nature, and in him only, because he is the Supreme Lord, all living beings merged, as if sleeping at night, their energy suspended."
Text number 22. Sa eva bhuyo nijavira choditam swajiva mayam prakritim shishrik satim anama rupatmani rupanamani vidit samano nushashura sastrakrit.
The personality of Godhead, again desiring to give names and forms of his parts and parcels, the living entities, placed them under the guidance of material nature. By his own potency, material nature is empowered to recreate.
Text number 23. Sava ayam yatpadam atra surayo jitendriya nirjita matarishvaraha pasyanti bhaktya utkalit maharatmalana nanasva esava esha sattvam parimartam arhati.
Here is the same Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose transcendental form is experienced by the great devotees who are completely cleansed of material consciousness by dint of rigid devotional service and full control of life and the senses. And that is the only way to purify existence.
Text number 24. Sava ayam sakya anugita satkato vedeshu guhyeshu chaguhya vadibi ya eka isho jagat atma lilaya sajate avate atina tatra sajjate.
Oh, dear friends, here is that very personality of Godhead whose attractive and confidential pastimes are described in the confidential parts of Vedic literature by his great devotees. It is he only who creates, maintains, and annihilates the material world and yet remains unaffected.
Text number 25. Yada hayadharmena tamodiyo nripa jivanti tatraisha hi sattvata kila datte bhagam satyam ritam dayam yasho bhavaya rupani dadat yuge yuge.
Wherever there are kings and administrators living like animals in the lowest modes of existence, the Lord in his transcendental form manifests his supreme power. The truth positive, shows specially mercy to the faithful, performs wonderful activities, and manifests various transcendental forms as is necessary in different periods and ages.
Text number 26. Aho alam slagayatmamam yadukulam. Aho alam punyatamam madhurevanam. Yad esha pumsam rishabhasriyaspati swajanmana chankara manena chanchati.
Oh, how supremely glorified is the dynasty of King Yadu, and how virtuous is the land of Mathura, where the supreme leader of all living beings, the husband of the goddess of fortune, has taken his birth and wandered in his childhood.
Text number 27. Aho bata swarya shashas tirakskari kusastali punya yashashkari bhuya pasyanti nityam yad anugrahistam smitavalokam swapatim sma yad prajaha.
Undoubtedly, it is wonderful that Dwarka has defeated the glories of the heavenly planets and has enhanced the celebrity of the earth. The inhabitants of Dwarka are always seeing the soul of all living beings, Krishna, in his loving features. He glances at them and favors them with sweet smiles.
Text number 28. Nunam ratasnana hutadineshwaraha samarchito hayasya gihita panibhi pibanti ya sakya adarmamritam muhur vraja striya sammumuhur yad ashraya asayaha.
Oh, friends, just think of his wives, whose hands he has accepted, how they must have undergone vows, baths, fire, sacrifices, and perfect worship of the Lord of the universe to constantly relish now the nectar from his lips. By kissing, the damsels of Vrajabhumi would often faint just by expecting such favors.
Text number 29. Ya viryasulkena hrita swayamvare Pramatya Tyadya Pramukan hi Sushmina Pradyumna Sambamba Sutadayo Paro Yasya Hrita Bhaume Bhauma Vade Sahasrasa.
The children of these ladies are Pradyumna, Samba, Amba, ladies like Rukmini, Satyabhama, and Jambavati were forcibly taken away by him from their Swayamvar ceremonies after he defeated many powerful kings, headed by Sisupal. And other ladies were also forcibly taken away by him after he killed Bhaumasura and thousands of his assistants. All of these ladies are glorious.
Text number 30. Eta Param Sritvam Apasta Peshalam Nirasta Saucham Bata Sadhu Kurvate Yasham Grihat Pushkara Lochana Pati Najat Upaiti Ahriti Bir Shridi Sparshan.
All these women auspiciously glorified their lives despite their being without individuality and without purity. Their husband, the lotus-eyed personality of Godhead, never left them alone at home. He always pleased their hearts by making valuable presentations.
Text number 31. Evam Vidha Gadatinam Sagira Pura Yoshitam Nirikshane Abhinandan Shashmitena Yayohari.
While the ladies of the capital Hastinapur were greeting him and talking in this way, the Lord, smiling, accepted their good greetings, and casting the grace of his glance over them, he departed from the city.
Text number 32. Ajata Satru Pratanam Gopitaya Madhudvisha Parebhya Sankita Snehad Prayunkta Chatur Anginim.
Maharaj Yudhishthira, although no one's enemy, engaged 4 divisions of defense: horse, elephant, chariot, and army to accompany Lord Krishna, the enemy of the Asuras demons. The Maharaj did this because of the enemy and also out of affection for the Lord.
Text number 33. Ata duragatan sauri kauravan virahaturan sannivartya dridam snigdan prayat swanagarim priyai.
Out of profound affection for Lord Krishna, the Pandavas, who were of the Kuru dynasty, accompanied him a considerable distance to see him off. They were overwhelmed with the thought of future separation. The Lord, however, persuaded them to return home, and he proceeded towards Dwarka with his dear companions.
Kuru, verse number 34 and 35. Kuru jangala panchalan surashenan sayamunan brahmavritam kurukshetram matsyan sarasvatan hata marudanban atikramya saurabhriyo paran anartan bhargavo pagash Charan Shranvattavaho Managvidu.
O Sonika, the Lord then proceeded towards Kurujangala, Panchala, Surasana, the land on the bank of the river Yamuna, Brahmavarta, Kurukshetra, Matsya, Saraswata, the province of the desert of the land of the scanty water. After crossing these provinces, he gradually reached the Sauvira and Abira provinces. Then west of these reached Dwarka at last.
Verse number 36. Tatra tatraha tatratyair hari pratyudyatarhana sayam beje disham paschad gavisto gam gatastada.
On his journey through these provinces, he was welcomed, worshipped, and given various presentations. In the evening, in all places, the Lord suspended his journey to perform evening rites. This was regularly observed after sunset. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you, Jyoti Mataji. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. So, like to just take an opportunity to quickly introduce Hadai Prana Prabhu, who's our this evening facilitator. But before that, I want to thank the devotees, Sham Prabhu and Jyoti Mataji, for that wonderful recitation. It's a very important chapter of the Bhagavatam in the first canto. And yeah, it's just nice to be able to hear those verses. So with us, we have Hadai Prana Prabhu, who is actually my godbrother, disciple of His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu. Prabhu is currently on a 6 months sabbatical here at Bhaktivedanta Manor. He is doing his Bhakti Shastri at the manor, staying in the ashram. And I had the privilege to meet with him in one of the recent yatras we did in Jagannath Puri in the youth retreat. We had a global youth retreat where all the youth from many parts of the world came together to Jagannath Puri and Mayapur at the towards the end of December. And I met him there. Prabhu is super enthusiastic about devotional service, taking part in Krishna consciousness in all dimensions, in all services, but particularly in Harinam and book distribution. He really likes that service. And currently, yeah, he's based at Bhaktivedanta Manor. So very happy to introduce you, Prabhu. Thank you so much for coming and giving us your association this evening. It was Vrindavan Chand Prabhu's session, but Prabhu kindly stepped in. I hope we'll have the opportunity to have you more often on this platform. So over to you, Prabhu. You can, Jyoti Mataji will make you co-host, or she's probably already done that. And you can share your screen when you're reading the verse and the purpose for today and when you're discussing. So thank you again, Hadai Prana Prabhu. Welcome. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Divyanam Prabhu, Anwar Pranam. Let me just turn on my camera.
Yeah, sorry, I was in the car, so I couldn't switch on my camera. It's all dark here.
Thank you very much for allowing me to serve in this capacity. I heard it was Vrindavan Chandra Prabhu's session, and I was just called on. They called out. So sometimes, what a horse can't do, a donkey can do sometimes. So that's me. I'm the donkey. So I feel very unqualified to speak on the Bhagavatam, but it's one of, this is actually a very interesting chapter, and it's very amazing section of the Bhagavatam, the first canto. Actually, the first canto, if you look at the context of how Srila Prabhupada wrote this first canto, it's very, he was coming from Delhi, he was coming from Vrindavan, and he didn't know what he would bring to the West, so he brought in he brought only the first canto, basically. The Bhagavad Gita also he finished in New York before it got stolen, and then he finished that. So he came with the Bhagavatam. And then it's said that in this first canto of Bhagavatam, which was originally in 3 sections, he has put everything in these purports, everything that is required, because he was 70 years old, quite not shabby for a 70, that he didn't know how long he would live. So he would, if you look at how Srila Prabhupada wrote his books, he would put the most urgent books out first. So after first canto, what did he write? He finished Bhagavad Gita, or what was published was the Macmillan abridged Gita. And then after that, what did he said? He wanted the Krishna book. He said, I don't know when I'll get to the first canto, if I'll get to the first canto. But first, before even the Krishna book, he said, what does the West need? Does anybody have a guess what book Prabhupada published after first canto? Maybe you can write in the chat box if you're feeling inclined. Or if you can.
Was it Krishna book?
So before Krishna book actually has to do with George Harrison. There was one book before that, one big book that was before that. Anybody else have a guess?
Teachings of Lord Chaitanya.
Exactly. Very good. One Mangalarti sweet to Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. So the Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, if you haven't read that book, it's Prabhupada called it the 5 most important chapters of Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is teachings to Rupa Goswami, teachings to Sanatan Goswami, teachings to Prakashananda Saraswati, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and Ramananda Roy. These 5 chapters are considered the most important teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And so he made it a point in 1967, 2 years after leaving India, to publish that book. So you can understand Prabhupada had a mission of urgency. So before I start speaking on the Bhagavatam, I'd like to offer a small Mangalacharan, and then we can go ahead. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yatkritva tamaham vande Sri Gurum Dinatarinam Param Ananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. So let me just share my screen. I'm not sure if that's possible. One second. I don't think I can share my screen, but if yeah, something's wrong with my computer. But anyway, we are going with Canto 1, Chapter 10, I believe. And you have all finished Chapter 9. And Chapter 9 was definitely an amazing chapter. And chapter 9 was about the passing away of Bhishma Dev. And then you have this wonderful section right in the middle of Bhishma Stuti. Bhishma Stuti is actually one of the favorite stutis of our acharyas. There's it describes Bhishma's favorite darshan of the Lord, favorite darshan of the Lord. Like there's nice verses. Tribhuvana kamanam tamala varnam ravi karagoravaram bharam dadhane vapura kalakula vritananabjam vijaya sakera tirastume navadya. So Bhishma Dev is making these prayers unto Krishna, and who is present there. And after this is the kind of the ending of the Mahabharata, the war of Kurukshetra. And next, Krishna has to go home. Krishna has to go home to Dwaraka. And in Dwaraka, his princesses and all of them is there. Krishna has come up as a emergency about the Pandavas. And now Krishna is leaving. And it's so amazing that for every movement of the Lord, there's a pastime associated with it. And Sukadeva Goswami found it so important in the whole scheme of things that he found it so important to give one whole chapter of the Bhagavatam to just Krishna leaving somewhere. That is the amazing quality of the Lord. In one sense, it's nobody. Imagine if you left a room. Is somebody writing a whole stuti or writing a whole chapter about you leaving a room or leaving a place or anything like that? No. But for Lord's appearance, for the Lord's disappearance, for the Lord's departure, for the Lord's arrival, which is the next chapter, these are all very significant events that Sukadeva Goswami thought it would be valid to speak on in Parikshit's final days. So that's why it's considered the introduction for the Bhagavatam. We're just starting to get into it. So in text 1, it gives a scene of after killing his enemies, Yudhishthir, he's assisted by his brother. Now Yudhishthir Maharaj is king. The conclusion of the Gita and everything, the Kurukshetra, everything has happened. Gita, Krishna, Yudhishthir is now set in as king. And I'd just like to give a quick overview of this chapter, which is what I believe I should be doing. In text, we'll just go through some key verses in this chapter, and we'll look at them, and then maybe we can discuss a few of them. So Krishna is still there. It's not that right when Yudhishthira Maharaj is crowned, he leaves immediately. He actually stays. Even when the U.S., when the new president gets elected, it's not that the new president moves in the right next day. There's a transition process. So Krishna stays there to comfort the Pandavas and to pacify his relatives, and especially Subhadra while this transition period is happening. And now the Pandavas are actually kind of they're kind of confused in one sense, and they don't know how to feel, because now the war is over. They're crowned how they want it to be, but now Krishna has to leave. And being very close associates with the Lord, pure devotees of the Lord, they do not want to see that. And Shukadeva Goswami, Shaunaka Rishi is actually saying this verse. I'm doing the Zoom on Chrome. I don't know who else the host is. Is it possible to share Canto 1, Chapter 11, text through 12, 11 through 12? Whoever the host is. We'll just read a little bit from there. Canto 11, chapter 10, text 11 through 12. In this verse, Krishna is, Shaunak Rishi is saying something very important. he's saying, the intelligent who have understood the Supreme Lord in association with pure devotees and have become freed from bad materialistic association can never avoid hearing the glories of the Lord, even though they have heard them only once. How then could the Pandavas tolerate his separation? For they had been intimately associated with him, his person, seeing him face to face, touching him, conversing with him, and sleeping, sitting, and dining with him. Amazing, right? It's almost unfathomable. You're in close proximity with somebody, and now they're leaving. You might have had this experience when if a relative or maybe your son or daughter goes off to university, or maybe your relatives have come and stayed with you for a while, and then they have gone back home, and you're thinking, how is my life going to live? How am I going to live my life after, my son or daughter has left? Or at least that's what when I left home, when I went to university, my parents, they called me the first week, and then they're like, I don't know what to do. So much free time. You were taking a lot of our time. So we don't know what to do. So imagine having the association with Krishna for so many years, and now Krishna is leaving. How could they tolerate this? So this is the amazing conundrum that the Pandavas were in. And I'd just like to read some of Srila Prabhupada's purport. I'm not sure if is Jyoti, is it possible to put this on the screen? I'm not, maybe she has stepped away, but yes, this is the amazing quality of what they're going through. And in the next section of the next verse, Krishna, the Bhagavatam is saying, all their hearts were melting for him on the pot of attraction. They looked at him without blinking their eyes, and they moved hither and thither in perplexity. So now you can see that when your children are sometimes misbehaving, and they're looking, and maybe they stole something, and they don't want people people to know. They look their eyes to the left, they look their eyes to the right, and then when you confront them, they're like, oh, it wasn't me, but they won't make eye contact. So when you're confused, you don't make eye contact. So the Pandavas were feeling exactly this. They couldn't blink their eyes. This is the internal mood of what they were feeling. They didn't want to blink their eyes because Krishna is going to leave soon. They know that as a fact, but they didn't want to look at Krishna. They're looking hither and thither in perplexity, because they're like, what can we do to figure out how to get out of this situation? This is amazing. And 14 to from 15 to 20, it shows how Krishna was allowed to leave. What was taking place? There was mridangas, nagras, and there was like dhundubis. And when somebody's leaving, it shows what preparations the residents of Hastinapur made for Krishna to leave. And it was it was welling up in them, the love of the Hastinapur Vasis. And you can see that you can actually, for an interesting contrast, you can see you can compare these receptions at the going away arrangements, and compare it to how the Dwarka Vasis invite Krishna back. And they also have very nice arrangement, and flowers, and sounds for Krishna. In modern society nowadays, when someone comes to the house and when someone leaves the house, it's the culture is lost. In previous culture, it was there. How to bring people? We just say, hey, come on in, grab whatever you want from the fridge, get a soda, sit on the couch, let's watch television. But actually in Vedic culture, there's actually a proper way of receiving guests. If they're very senior, you're actually supposed to have a nice cushion waiting for them, wash their feet, offer them some water. That's actually the minimum. And then even in other older cultures, I was talking to one of my friends who was Muslim, and he's from Saudi Arabia, and he was saying that actually in Muslim culture, you're supposed to let anybody stay at your house for 3 days, and you can't ask them any questions. Why are you here? What's your plan for at least 3 days? So this is a foregone lost culture, but this culture was there in the residents of Hastinapur. And then another key verse that actually Srila Prabhupada gives a very nice purport to is text 20, Canto 1, Chapter 10, text 20. And the translation is, absorbed in the thought of the transcendental qualities of the Lord, who is sung in select poetry, the ladies of the roofs of all the houses of Hastinapur began to talk of him. This talk was more attractive than the hymns of the Vedas. Well, the Sanskrit is Sarva Shruti Manohara. Manohara means he's man ke hara. It steals the mind. What steals the mind? These talks of these women, and it's more attractive to the mind than what? Sarva Shruti. All the Shrutis combined. Why is it more attractive, much attractive than the Shrutis? Because sometimes the Shrutis indirectly glorify Krishna. This is and that can be taken in a roundabout way, and sometimes people come to the wrong conclusion. But why is the people of Hastinapur, the women of Hastinapur, why was there Hare Krishna? Oh, why was their talk more attractive? It's because they were talking directly about Krishna, and they were singing in poetry, select poetry. And Srila Prabhupada says in this purport, it's actually it's mind-boggling. It is said in the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that in all the Vedic literatures, the goal is the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Factually, the glories of the Lord are depicted in such literature as the Vedas, Ramayana, and Mahabharata. And in the Bhagavatam, they are specifically mentioned in respect to the Supreme Lord. Therefore, while the ladies on the tops of the houses in the capital of the kings of the Kuru dynasty were talking about the Lord, their talk was more pleasing than the Vedic hymns. Anything sung in the praise of the Lord is Shruti Mantra. There are songs of Thakur Narottam Das, one of the Acharyas in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, composed in simple Bengali language. But Thakur Vishwanath Chakravarti, another very learned Acharya of the same Sampradaya, has approved the songs by Thakur Narottam Das to be as good as Vedic mantras. Amazing. And this is so because of the subject matter. The language is immaterial, but the subject matter is important. The ladies, who are all absorbed in the thought and actions of the Lord, develop the consciousness of Vedic wisdom by the grace of the Lord. And therefore, although such ladies might not have been very learned scholars in Sanskrit or otherwise, still, whatever they spoke was more attractive than the Vedic hymns. We'll stop there. But in this purport, Srila Prabhupada is bringing up Narottam Das Thakur, and furthermore, even Bhaktivinoda Thakur. These songs of Narottam Das Thakur and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, they can, Srila Prabhupada would say, they can make a stone-like heart melt. They have such a deep imports on the holy name, and the whole philosophy is actually in these songs. I'm reminded of the nice song they sing in Mayapur for Darshanarthi of Panchatattva. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Doya Koro More. In that song, the whole Panchatattva, most associates of Lord Chaitanya are in that song, and Narottam Das Thakur. There's so many nice songs. Gauranga Duti Pada Jarmora Sampada, and these songs, even though they're not from Vedas or Mahabharata or Bhagavatam or Gita, the subject matter is so pure and so and it's a realized subject matter by the songwriter that it is equivalent or even better than Vedic mantras, because these mantras are directly glorifying the Supreme Lord. And these are very empowered acharyas. Narottam Das Thakur he had the first Gaur Purnima festival. We just celebrated Gaur Purnima, and we had nice kirtan, nice prashadam. He actually inaugurated that. Yeah, so the festival was lost. The appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was lost, and he started that. And he invited all the associates of Lord Chaitanya, Janava Mata, everybody who was left. And what happened at that Gaur Purnima festival? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself showed himself to everybody in the crowd. And if you're ever in Carpinteria, California, I went when I was a child to Carpinteria, California, to see His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj, and Giriraj Maharaj has this conch, and it's a very special conch, and that conch was actually from Keturi, where that festival was happening, and he has that conch. So potentially that conch was blown when Narottam Das by Narottam Das Thakur while the Pancha Tattva were still around. Amazing, right? And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, what an empowered acharya, wrote 100 books on Vaishnava philosophy and was a magistrate in the British government. And probably Satchidananda Bhaktivinoda Thakur, probably the grandfather of our sampradaya. So this is another very important verse about the select poetry. And then I think the last verse I'm going to touch on is 26. And in 26, it's saying that, oh, how supremely glorified is the dynasty of King Yadu, and how victorious is the land of Mathura, where the supreme leader of all beings, the husband of the goddess of fortune, has taken his birth and wandered in his childhood. This is in this verse, it describes, this is in the Hastinapur ladies glorifying Lord Krishna. He's saying that we're just so glorious, we're just so fortunate. What qualification did we have to even see Krishna? But because he was born in the Yadu dynasty, because we have this fortune, and we happen to be living at this time, we can see Krishna. And similarly, we're actually in a very fortunate position ourselves. In our circumstance, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu only came 5,000 years ago, 500 years ago. I'm sorry, 500 years ago. And Kali Yuga lasts 432,000 years. So this is actually we're not very long, in the sense that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one devotee was saying, the dust of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's feet have not even fallen down in Navadvip. And we're so fortunate. And we're only 50 years ago, this is the 50th anniversary of the manor. 50 years ago, in August 1973, Srila Prabhupada came to the room, maybe 10 feet down, and he actually installed Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda. And we can visit that place. And he is the Senapati Bhakta, the commander-in-chief of Lord Chaitanya. In Chaitanya Mahangal, Lochan Das Thakur uses this term. He says there's one Bhakta, one Senapati Bhakta, who will come down and will spread these holy names of Lord Chaitanya to all these 7 continents. And that was Srila Prabhupada. And we are so fortunate that we can either be disciples of Srila Prabhupada, or we can meet disciples of Srila Prabhupada. And we shouldn't think that we are very bereft. These ladies, even though they were standing on top of a roof and talking about Krishna, they weren't feeling bereft of the association of Krishna. Now, actually, because how it works, that the farther you are down in the parampara, the more mercy you get, because you have more mercy from the Vaishnavas. This is a very sanguine point, that you get the mercy of more and more acharyas, and you come down. Now you're getting the mercy of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. You're getting the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. You're getting the mercy of your spiritual master. And now some spiritual masters have spiritual disciples who are now initiating. So you get more mercy at the further down you are. So we should not feel bereft. We're not able to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. We're not able to see Krishna face to face. So even if we were able to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or Krishna, what is our qualification? Even Paundraka saw Krishna, and he called himself Krishna in the 10th canto. Even Giraj Maharaj one time was speaking with His Holiness Gaur Govinda Maharaj, and he was saying he would like to visit Vrindavan and live in Vrindavan forever. And then Gaur Govinda Maharaj smiled at Giraj Maharaj and said, even Kamsa lived in Vrindavan. He lived in Mathura. So in that section, we're not bereft of any mercy. We're completely able to get the mercy of the Lord. And even if you go at chapter 11, you'll see the prostitutes of Dwarka. Even someone considered very low-born, low caste, low action, even they're considered devotees of the Lord, because they're making so many beautiful prayers unto Krishna. So nothing. There's a nice verse in the Bhagavad Gita that even low-class people can take up to the devotional service of the Lord. Similarly, everybody is fit for this the service of the Supreme Lord, and these pure devotees in this chapter, like the ladies of Hastinapur, are showing how to attain that mercy by having pleasing talks about Krishna. So every night, I assume every night or you're doing this reading of Srimad Bhagavatam. That's very nice to speak about Krishna, to talk about Krishna. Nam, Gun, Roop, Charitadi, Sukirtananu. So you can just glorify these aspects of Krishna, and you get purified, and you'll actually see the direct presence of Krishna in your life. So I would like to pause there. It's 8:30. It's 8:29. I was requested and told to pause at 8:30. If there's any questions, comments, corrections, I'm always looking for more discussion about this chapter. If you have any good points in this chapter that that you'd like to point out for the other devotees as we move on, that would be great also. If not, thank you so much for allowing me to serve. Hare Krishna. Any comments we can take now?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All grace to Srila Prabhupada. What a wonderful class. And we are very fortunate to have you in our program. It's really, really nice. And Dibanam Prabhu mentioned that you have come here for Bhakti Shastri. I think you are beyond that. As I hear you, Bhagavatam, you have so much, you are so fluent. You just, I think you don't need to study so much. It's really nice. It's really, I mean, you have explained the whole, the chapter so nicely, and we're very fortunate to have you in with us. It's really keep coming. That's all I want to say. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Palika Maji. Please bless me that I can go further in devotional service and can serve more Vaishnavas.
I can see the potency on you. You're so wonderful. Thank you. Very good.
Very well.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I would like to echo the words by Mataji just now. I think the jewel in you is now being polished. So the wonderful qualities are becoming manifest. So with the mercy of Guru Maharaj, just do what you are doing and just be happy. Prabhupada is with you, your Guru Maharaj is with you. We're all with you. Haribo.
Chandra Caitanya Prabhu, thank you so much. Every week you come and bless me so much. So looking forward to more association, and I hope to be, if I can just be one minuscule like you, I would consider my life very successful.
I think you're doing very well. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So Hare Krishna. So I think I don't see any more questions or comments or anything. If not, I think we can. We never end. I was told. I heard a class by His Holiness Radha Govinda Maharaj. He said we should never end the recitation or reading of Srimad Bhagavatam or discussion, because how can you end Krishna's pastimes? But I think it's appropriate. I think he said it was appropriate to pause the reading of Srimad Bhagavatam until we can get to it, get back to it next time. So maybe it's a good time to pause our reading of Srimad Bhagavatam. Is that okay? Whoever is leading
Yes,
this.
Prabhuji. Thank you so much. It was a wonderful class.
Thank you, Jyoti Maji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Prabhuji. Wonderful class.
Anandakoti Vaishnava
Thank you, Prabhuji, for the wonderful class. Yeah.
Hare
Premanande.
Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.